So you were saying about Sandy?
Okay, yeah. Well, me and James were up here one morning. We just set up the camp, and we were out here with our signs, holding up signs, letting everybody know what's going on. And we see Sandy roll up in her wheelchair. Sandy was not able to find her ride up here. She couldn't walk at the time because she had something wrong with her ankle. She literally rolled her wheelchair for several miles just to come down here and stand with us. That's dedication, that's what the retired community can bring to Occupy. And just something like that just warms my heart, because it shows that, people are willing to stand up and go through extreme, difficulties in order to get up here and be with us. And
so, I mean, this is the kind of people that are attracted, people that are committed to a cause, people have been personally affected themselves.
Oh yeah, and Sandy, she's not fighting for herself. She's got her Social Security, she's got her retirement. She doesn't even have to be here. She could live comfortably for the rest of her life. She's up here because she cares about our future, she cares about us. I'm from out of town, I don't have any family here, I lost my job recently. She's been like a mom to me, she's taking care of me. Just recently, my old roommate, about 2 weeks ago, actually threw out all of my clothes, all of my possessions. Her and her family went out, they bought me new clothes and everything, just to make sure, I had clean clothes to wear and everything. It's the love and heart that's here with the Occupy that really sets us apart.
That's really cool that somebody can go out of their way for virtually stranger.
Exactly,
and to do something like that. Well, I just want to see all the Occupies around the country exist as long as possible.
Oh yeah.
I mean, did you hear in Russia yesterday that for the first time, maybe in memory, since the Russian Revolution, since the overthrow of communism in the 90s, they had over 10,000 people protesting Putin. They've never had crowds like that before.
That's awesome.
And they're calling it Occupy Russia.
Awesome.
They're talking about. I mean, it's a worldwide movement. Unlike you have people that say, well, what's the difference between the Tea Party and the Occupy movement?
The Occupy movement is in all continents. Even Antarctica has an Occupy.
Brad, you get it 100%, because I think that is the biggest difference.
I agree with you, and I think the Tea Party, a lot of the stuff the Tea Party before Republicans bought them out was a great movement. I participated in a lot of the Tea Party rallies before the Republicans bought it out. But the thing with the Tea Party is they were fighting just for American rights. Occupy, we're fighting for human rights, because all humans have an innate value. Every human life is precious. I'm not a complete pacifist. If somebody attacks you, you have the right to defend yourself. But at the same time, just pure rampant global imperialism is a horrible thing. We're killing, millions of people for what? Oil?
It makes no sense.
It's disgusting.
It makes no sense. When you say that you're not a pacifist, it's kind of like the Pete Seeger song, "Bring 'Em Home." I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
And one of the parts is, and if he says he's not. If you think I'm a pacifist, I'm not. He says if some nation would invade this land of mine, I'd be right there at the firing line. So I think, Brad, what you're saying is there's a difference between being a pacifist, which I think 99% of us would want to be 99% of the time, and being anti-war.
Yeah. Well, exactly, and I think pacifism as a term in and of itself is kind of misconstrued, because I think that a pacifist can still defend what he believes in, because, honestly, no violence whatsoever, no matter the reason, makes no sense to me, because if somebody comes up to you and, attacks you, if you don't, stand up to him, if you don't stop them, then, they're just going to do it again, and they're going to do it to somebody else.
Right.
So it's not so much pacifism needs to be no violence whatsoever. It needs to be, as Teddy Roosevelt said, speak softly and carry a big stick.
I understand your concern, but here I think, from my point of view, in the Occupy movement, because of this police state we have in the country, just because the cameras and surveillance are all over, I wouldn't doubt we're being surveilled right now.
I'm sure we are.
Yeah, that I would say that the best tactic always, even when it comes to defending yourself, is to be a pacifist. Now,
yes,
I'll tell you.
I agree.
I'll tell you why. just like during the civil rights movement, but what I'm talking about specifically are the Freedom Riders, where the Freedom Riders went in, got their heads busted, and offered no resistance at all, and that was the ultimate statement they could make. They would take the punch. They would take the punch again and again and again to make their point.
I agree with you, and I believe that, like I said before, I believe violence is a last resort. I do not think our country is so far gone that we need to resort to violence. I am a firm believer in the Constitution of this country. I love this country. I think this country has been before the greatest country in the world, and it has the potential to be the beacon that guides humanity forward into the future. But, you know, we've trashed our Constitution. We don't even follow half of what's in the Constitution anymore. And I think that's a big difference. Like, you know, we need to realign, you know, our entire government structure back to what our founding fathers intended. And right now, yes, of course, like violence is not, it doesn't have any place in this movement, because, you know, there's still senators on our side, there's still congressmen who are fighting for the same things we are. Now, if we were at the point where everybody in control of the government was against us, then it might be a different story, but that's not the case right now. And as long as that remains to be true, there's no reason for us to use violence in any way, shape, or form.
Right. It's a moot point in a society that's free.
Oh, yeah.
In a society, for instance, like we were talking about Russia, that's a different instance.
Oh yeah, and Rome, like all that stuff. That's an entirely different scenario than here.
I mean, we're not in a situation like Russia or Iran, but we have our own unique situation. I mean, we're all part of this global empire, and it's squeezing us in a different way. I mean, just because we have it better than, say, the worst countries in the world, we shouldn't go and say, "Oh, you see how great it is here. We shouldn't change anything. Just keep it the way it is." And you know, and that's just it's not what I was taught when I was growing up. I was taught if you love this country and there's something wrong, you change it.
I mean, it's as JFK said, you know, government should never fear criticisms. Government should welcome it, because from criticism comes understanding. You know, right now our government is, you know, beating down peaceful protesters. Perfect example. I was up in New York about 3 weeks ago. I saw, you know, 2 protesters get beaten brutally in the park for having a blanket. How is having a blanket in a public park in the middle of December illegal? And it was just, it's a blatant abuse of police authority. And, you know, like, I was so shocked I couldn't even really react. I could just sit there and film it. Because I couldn't believe that, you know, 60 cops were coming into a park to beat down 2 peaceful protesters over having a blanket. It made no sense to me.
Yeah, and you know that ultimately the orders to do something like that come from the top.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't just come from the mayor, even though he's a billionaire mayor. It comes from the corporations. It comes from the people at the top and say, you know what, we can't stand this heat. We can't stand this embarrassment. We can't stand the people being exposed day after day to what we're doing, and to be reminded day after day of what we're doing. And that's where it comes from ultimately.
Well, I mean, look at New York. I mean, the Wall Street recently donated, I don't even know, it was like several $100 million to the New York Police Department. Where do you think they got these high-tech sound cannons they're using on the protesters? Where'd they get all this fancy riot gear? It was paid for by Wall Street. You know, of course they're going to stand up and come in. But something that's going to be interesting is when I was up there talking with Occupy Wall Street, they're talking about Wall Street's trying to push the city government into privatizing the police officers' pension fund, which will basically give Wall Street the ability to gamble with that money like they did with the mortgage money that caused the mortgage collapse. Well, Occupy is planning to do a protest in, you know, support of keeping, you know, that from happening to the cops' benefits. You know, what's a police officer going to do when they're ordered to come in and, you know, beat down a bunch of peaceful protesters who were fighting for their rights?
Exactly.
You know, it's going to be one of those situations where it's really going to put them on the line and make them go, you know, hey, do I want to serve Wall Street or do I want to serve the people?
Exactly. You know, you get to the point where you have these people repeating the same cliches. For instance, we have to privatize this. What they're really saying, if you go through all the jargon, is the banks want to buy it for 10 cents on a dollar.
Yes.
And therefore, we are going to let them buy it for 10 cents on a dollar if you don't shape up the way we want you to shape up. The same way when they talk about privatization. They said, well, if we can't raise the money, we're going to have to privatize it. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we say to the corporations, we're gonna publish, we're not private, we're gonna take away your assets, Exxon, and we're gonna give it to the companies that are environmentally respectful.
Yep.
Why does it have to be that what the public owns has to be redistributed to the banksters, but what the banksters and the corporations have can't come back to the people? That's why I always say
apathy. Humanity has been dumbed down by media and our current educational system to think that, you know, they're not powerful, their voice doesn't matter, you know? And as an individual, yeah, there's not a whole lot of change one individual can do. But there's what, 6.4 billion people on this planet? 1% of those people are, you know, using their, not even 1%, maybe 0.5%, are using their money, power, and influence corruptly. I'm sorry, they don't make enough bullets to take us all out. Like, yeah, some people might get hurt, you know, there's a lot of bad things that could happen, but the point remains, as a collective, as humanity, we are strong, we are powerful, we just need to get together and get our voices heard, and that's our biggest problem is, you know, the apathy. If it's not directly affecting somebody, they don't care. I've talked to so many people who are like, yeah, we know the system's messed up. Well, you know, you guys should come out here and stand with us. Oh, well, you know, it's not really worth my time. You've already said you know something's wrong. How is it not worth your time to try and fix it? You know, this isn't even just about you. This is about, you know, your kids, your family, your future.
right.
How y'all doing this morning?
How's it going?
All right, them signs will have to be moved.
Pull them out so you guys can do the grass? Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna be
Gotcha.
coming down here. We're gonna be coming down here pretty soon. But you can leave those. You can leave these out for right now. The ones right here.
Yeah.
You can leave them up.
So just pull these up to the
Yeah,
front?
pull them until I get up here. They'll probably have to let if I get up
Excuse me.
Okay.
You guys mind being on camera? Can I ask you a couple questions or no?
Actually, we do mind. We actually wanted to talk to him for a moment.
Oh, okay.
Just to see what he had to say.
Oh, okay, fine.